Hey everyone, and welcome to Living by the Law, the podcast discussing fictional worlds and how wondrous and ridiculous they are. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jude and Guy. Living by the Law is not currently sponsored. If you'd wish to sponsor us, go to your local supermarket and buy all the clear jelly you can. Then transform it into a giant cube and place a Roomba under it. After it runs you over, scream your offer as loud as you can as your flesh gets dissolved from your bones. We will hear you. We always do. Ever wondered what's hiding in your cupboard or just under your bed? It's time we talk about monsters. This episode, we will be delving into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, explaining what D&D is and exploring some of the most horrifying and interesting monsters D&D has to offer. This episode contains spoilers for some of the behind-the-scenes aspects of D&D and some pre-made adventures. They had so many great advertisements. They had one where I think someone literally beat up anyone who wasn't playing a Sega device.
That's not a fucking advertising campaign. That's a scare
It was
tactic
a threat.
campaign.
It's a threat.
That's propaganda. Play Sega or I'll beat your ass.
Speaking of old games, would you like to bring us into today's topic, Matt?
Today we'll be talking about D&D and more
The Dungeons
on
and
that note.
Dragons.
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons, for those who don't know. And more in that, we're going to be talking about the monsters of Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I've just realized that my window's open, so I'm going to close that so we don't get any people coming up and talking.
Wait, what?
My window's open.
So you're scared? Wait, so you don't get any people coming up?
Yeah,
People coming in your window? Is this an issue in New Zealand?
New Zealand, you would just go up to your window and try to go into your house.
No, well, I know people who live in New Zealand, right? So if they walk by, I'm open. I'm right onto the street, so they'll come and say hi.
It's like
If
Canada.
I'm open.
Canada's very. There's a thing I've heard, which is that Canada's very friendly. So they leave their doors unlocked, but they keep them closed because if you leave them open, A,
He'll
it's
just
very
walk in.
cold, and B, they've got bears.
Oh yeah.
But that's the
My
reason you
fav-
leave them unlocked as well. If someone's being pursued by a bear, then you just get inside a house.
My favourite thing that I just imagined was Matt going to close the window and seeing 5 people sprinting up about to just cannon bomb through
Got
the
a
window.
fly swatter.
Stay back.
No one's going to jump in my window. I just noticed it's open, so I didn't want the sound getting in to ruin it.
Yeah, we know it's okay.
That
It's
New
okay.
Zealand sound.
Okay, back on track. Today we're talking about D&D, or Dungeons and Dragons, which, for those who don't know, is a fantasy tabletop role-playing game originally designed by Gary Gygax and Dave Arnson, sorry.
So far, so good. So far, so good.
It was first published in 1974 with edition number 1, and has continued to this day in edition 5, with the current edition having 3 box sets, 6 core and supplement rule books, 6 campaign guides, and 15 official pre-made adventures, with more books added every year. So it is a lore that's very old, but kind of every time they make a new edition, it's kind of updated and kind of reset. It's just like a soft reset.
They usually make a new edition when the old edition has become unpopular.
Yeah.
Which is why 5th edition's been out for a couple of years now. It's still going strong, because this one's popped off in a major way.
Yes, it has.
But they're still releasing new stuff for it, so the lore isn't complete.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard with the fact that there's different laws depending on which universe you're in. Just as context, all 3 of us are very strong D&D players, so there's going to be a lot of opinions or knowledge in this which we might need to consider explaining.
For once, all 3 of us know something about
It's
the topic.
incredible.
It's incredible.
So good.
And scarily, I'm very scared for this episode, just so people listening know. This is not for you two. People listening know, I'm very scared for this episode because both Guy and Jude, I believe, have more knowledge of D&D world than I do. But I thought it was an interesting topic to look into, so I've taken a research on it. And that is particularly why we're not talking about the lore of the D&D world. And as Guy said earlier, every world's different. Every time you play with people, it's different. So we're just going to talk about some monsters today.
Yeah,
but,
there's a couple of official worlds, and then usually, not usually, but quite often in people's personal campaigns, as it's a sort of creative endeavor, they'll make their own sort of worlds. So there can be entirely different laws depending on which one you're addressing. So we're just going to go with stuff from the book today.
Yep. Same. Pretty much I was going to talk about the same thing, but from my notes. So D&D is a game. As a game concept, I've written a typo in my notes.
D&D is a game.
D&D is a game because is a structured game, yet an open-ended role-playing game. So it has a set of rules and regulations to how you play it, but it is also open, so you can choose to do whatever you want. So normally played inside around a table, each player, except one, takes control of a single character and represents that character inside the world. These players will work together to complete goals, often as a party of adventurers doing good for the people of the realm. Each character will not only have their own personality and playstyle, but their own abilities and stats inside the game. So you don't play yourself inside the game. Often you don't play yourself. I could play a rude noble who is in this case, the stats and abilities, I am a druid, so I have nature powers and magic, and that's how I help out in that way.
Wait, but I thought you said playing something different to you, so why would you play a snobby noble dude?
Yes.
Yeah,
Lord Matthew.
And it's also not so secret that I am also a druid in the real world. That's true.
Exactly.
I have seen Matthew.
I basically
turn
describe
into a
myself.
real
I'm
bear.
sorry. I should have had a better
example,
description. Should have had a different example. I'm sorry. I thought of it and it just wrote down. Yeah.
You didn't even think about it. That's just you. Just doing a bio at this point. Hey, let's get into it. This isn't the lore about. This isn't Dungeons and Dragons monster anymore. This is Matthew Doyle lore.
This is lore about me.
This is
How did you come into your druid powers? When did you first realize it? Did you eat a leaf as a baby?
I was only 9 years old. No. No. I was going to make a dumb thing, but no, so stop.
Don't you dare bring up freaking Mundungus Fletcher.
I was literally going to bring up Voldemort.
No.
It's going to face my scar on my forehead.
No, the scars on your forehead is from you being an idiot, not from you being a chosen one.
Can we get 10 minutes into the episode without actually talking about the topic of the episode?
Okay, the last remaining character plays the Dungeon Master or Game Master, who controls all the non-player characters and just keeps the game running. So they basically run the story for the players. Often they will create the world or campaign the players find themselves in. To play through a game, the players will have to roll dice in order to do tasks or beat obstacles. For example, you might have to try and convince someone that you should be let pass through that door. So you would say something as a character, be like, "I am a noble. I deserve to be here." Blah 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 blah. And then the DM will ask you to roll persuasion, and depending on what you roll, and your stats, what you plus to it, sees if you succeed or not. That's basically how the game works. So often in these quests, the party must complete. They must come across monsters as obstacles in their path. They must choose how to approach them, and each monster is different. Should they slay them with a well-aimed bow shot? Should they defeat them with their crafty spells? Should they sneak around the monster, not interacting with it at all? Should they befriend the beast?
Should they steal its eggs?
Should they run the fuck away?
Trick it, should they trick it into defeating itself? Or should they just run straight at it like idiots? Like our party does all the time.
Nice. All the time.
All the time. We just run straight at everything that's in our path. Oh god,
Usually you've got like the loose cannon character who's the one who's doing the weird shit. This time it's all loose cannons, but one person who stands there and goes, could we fucking not?
Leroy Jenkins. Have anyone seen that?
Oh boy.
But the basic concept is that you basically have to defeat a monster, and monsters are basically have a problem for the players to complete. Like in any game, you have a problem and you have to complete it. Oh, by the way, guys, I just want to bring it up now. Let's not get distracted. This is talking to Jude and Guy here. Let's not get distracted with our own D&D stories. We're here to talk about the monsters. We're not here to talk about our own stories.
But I want to talk about my own stories.
I'm keeping my mouth. I'm keeping my mouth quiet, man. It's okay.
I'm unable
talk to me.
I'm gonna zip this now. Hang on. I don't have a zip near me. I can't make sound effects. Give me a mo.
God damn it. God damn it.
Do you want me to come over with like a sewing needle and some thread, possibly?
I've got it. Give me a sec. Hang on. Fuck. Hang on. Fuck. Is this good audio, Jude? Is this good audio? Hey.
I think I just heard it.
Fuck. It's really... I can turn up the gain. Hang on. This is going to be fucking awful.
No, don't.
It's too late.
Did you do it?
I just did.
Okay, let's continue, please.
I
don't
agree
think my
with you.
brain can take this.
Okay, I'll crank the game back down again. Oh, is it down? Yeah, it's down.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is a monster? There are many monsters in the D&D world, a perfect example being in the name of Dungeons & Dragons, displaying how important they are to the game itself. The dragon is a monster. It's a pretty powerful yet basic monster that nearly everyone could identify by just looking at it, because they're in countless medias. But a monster in D&D can be any horrible creature that acts as a threat to the party. From a giant worm to a goblin, each have to be defeated, and each have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. But today, we'll be looking at some of my favourite and most interesting monsters that we can come across in D&D. Now, a disclaimer, and we already really talked about this, but before we get into the monsters, heads up about how D&D lore works. The world of D&D is called the Forgotten Realms, and I'll be taking from the Forgotten Realms lore that has been accumulated through all 5 editions, but taking mostly from 5th edition. But as we said, D&D, many people play their own worlds where the monsters I talk about may be very different, and that's fine. Everyone's lore is as legit as anyone else's. I know Jude in our campaign changes monsters all the time to fit the world we're in. Each game of D&D and each DM can have different versions of the same or very similar monsters, changing them to fit the world or adventure, or just the way they prefer it. No interpretation of any certain monster is more correct than another, but to be clear, I will be talking about the official Forgotten Realms D&D monsters. Any comment on that before we start?
No, very good,
All good.
Matthew. Very good.
Well done.
Thank you. Now let's talk about some monsters.
Fuck yeah.
First, we're starting off with a basic but a classic, the owlbear.
As listener requested.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The owlbear is what you'd think an owlbear is. It's a half owl, half bear. So their average height is about 8 feet tall, which is 2.4 meters.
And the Canadians would have trouble with owlbears, wouldn't they? If they leave their
Gotta close your chimneys.
Gotta close your chimneys now, Canadians.
Owlbears can't fly.
What?
Owlbears are the size of bears.
Are you? I mean, planes are much bigger. They can fly.
Owlbears don't have wings. I'll get into that.
But that's a
owlbears
more
don't have
important
wings.
detail, my man.
Okay, I was about to describe them. Okay, if you let me talk. So their average weight is about 1,500 pounds, or about 700 kilograms. They have they come in brown and black to yellow and brown, fur and feathers. So they're basically covered in both fur and feathers. So they're basically creatures that the size of bears, with the claws of bears, but are covered in thick fur and feathers. But their head is the head of an owl, the size of a bear head, but the head of an owl, with a serrated beak. So a beak that has teeth in it. Most beaks don't. That's basically the basic description of an owlbear.
They're terrifying.
Yes, they are terrifying.
They're so bad.
They have pretty good for early game. They have pretty good perception and have dark vision, which means they can see in the dark up to 60 feet. They also have Sorry,
They got the head of an owl, so like
they
they
got
got
owl
that
eyes.
owl vision.
exactly. They've also got keen sight and smell, so which in the game gives them an advantage on perception checks using sight or smell. They can also both attack with their beak and their claws. So owlbears, they live in many places, but they favour the forests most of all. So they eat most of what they can get their hands on, mostly rabbits, serpents, and wolves. They've also been known to eat termites as well, and they've been smart enough to be able to manage the wood of the termites to farm them.
Why? What?
So
Is that in the book?
I read from a lot of different sources online, but it's been known. So it's one of the stories probably they've been told in one of the editions.
That's weird as.
Yeah. So the owlbears would be able to push down trees and give the termites enough wood to keep farming them, basically, so they could keep getting them.
They must have pretty big brains. They're farming. That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Owls are pretty smart, dude.
Yeah. For intelligence,
They're very wise creatures. Owls.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where that came from. They just seem to fly around a lot. I'll also say the owlbear has a disadvantage on a standard bear because it can't do that cool neck turn thing because the head's now just attached as part of the body. So rather than being kind of
true.
on top of it.
That's true.
Maybe it can. It just has really good sight of what's coming from above it rather than behind it.
You can just 180 rotate on the front. It's like your face turning around rather than your head.
Imagine a fucking bear doing that to you. They also eat horses when they manage to sneak up on them.
Of course.
Of course, only the craftiest owlbears can sneak up on these horses.
Exactly. Owlbears usually hunt from sunset to sunrise, so they're nocturnal animals. Taking on the owl side of that. So because they have an owl head, they hoot or screech. And that's what sounds they make. They don't growl or roar or stuff like that. And they do this to declare their territory, to flush prey out of their hunting grounds, into their hunting grounds, and to attract a mate.
I mean, a hoot's just a screech is just a owl growl.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. When an owlbear successfully caught its prey, it is tended to partially consume partial on the spot and drag the rest back to its lair to be stored for later.
Lovely.
This scent of flesh that comes from the owlbear's lair often attracts creatures and therefore more prey to eat. Other wolves or stuff could come to. I can hear Mira.
We want to address this dog.
Mira's getting
we can hear the wolves in the background here. You know?
Getting eaten by the owlbear.
I think she might be getting eaten by an owlbear right now.
Honestly, I'd back this dog against an owlbear. Not many others that we've owned, but
Really? That's powerful. My dog would absolutely die against an owlbear, and I'm pretty sure that Matt's is already a snack. It's just, it's basically already popcorn chicken. So
I think my bear wouldn't even put up a fight. It wouldn't even run. It would just sit there and wait to be eaten.
So yes, tell us more about the owlbear.
that's a widely varied sort of meal diet, though. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, they're carnivores, so they just eat whatever they can, and they eat whatever they can get their hands on. You know,
That's fair.
so like the good thing about that, if they kill rabbits and bring them back to their den, it attracts wolves, and they just kill the wolves. You know.
Yeah, I get you.
Oh, they're baiting. They're farming.
Yeah, exactly.
Big brain
Owlbears
owlbear.
are quite smart. For intelligence 3 creatures, they're quite smart. These owlbears are incredibly aggressive, going as far to slay any creature they see. this territorial attitude caused many folks who live with nature to purposely kill owlbears before they have a chance to destroy the local wildlife. Owlbears
I
are
mean, endangered?
That kind of
Threat.
makes.
they're a threat to the wildlife. They're a pest.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
I mean, where are they coming from, though? Because obviously there can't be like a big group of them all in one area. They'd eat all the wildlife and they would starve.
They probably spread out across the landscape.
How are they spread out, though? As soon as they're by themselves, some druid's going to come through and be like, be gone, beast.
Well, not every area has a druid that could kill them.
It's the forest, my dude. There's one like every 20 meters.
That's true. There's too many of those
D&D
buggers.
official universe, there's a druid every 20 meters.
in a
This is true.
forest.
Yep.
And if you don't see any druids, it was actually that rabbit over there.
Yeah, we just went through a forest. We walked past 20 druids on our way.
That is one
Yeah.
question that I've always got about the creatures in D&D is it always just seems like there's just beasts around. It doesn't seem like there's much explanation as to, there's a, group of them over here, or this one's got a migratory path that comes through here every, summer. It's just there's an owlbear here. Fuck you.
Imagine describing all that. Imagine having to describe for every single creature in the world.
I
describing
don't
their
expect
entire-
them to, but it's just kind of funny sometimes where it's like, you enter into this, abandoned ruins of a castle and there's an owlbear there. It's like, how the fuck he get here?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair. That's fair. I get that. There are some things where you're like, how the fuck did this get here? There should be an explanation for that.
Maybe there's holes in the ground. The entirety of Faerun is full of owlbears.
Yeah, I know we're not talking about them today, but have you ever met a dire owlbear? So, for those who are listening, dire animals in it's in a lot of different media, but D&D for D&D is basically just giant size. So, I believe that giant owlbear is the size of a bus. And like a dire wolf, for example, is about the size of a car.
Oh, a direwolf's a real thing. Mm-hmm. It's extinct.
Yeah, they're old. They used to exist in the world. They're basic, but in
Jesus Christ.
here they basically exist. A lot of things that used to exist. A lot of things are just like, there's a beetle, and there's a giant beetle, and there's a massive beetle.
Fucking big.
A lot of monsters in
there's
D&D are like that.
And then there's a beetle that flies off with you.
They weighed on average 60 kilos. Was average of 68 kilos. Jesus.
Welcome to real life lore.
Sorry, Wikipedia's just wild.
We're just a history channel now.
We're just a history channel. This is the lore of the World War II. Whatever.
So what is there about the owlbear, Matthew?
The last thing, I don't have much more. I only have one more comment on them. They are scared of pyrolysis, if you know what that is. So basically, for listeners, basically it is a giant rooster creature that can breathe fire. So that is their main threat in the world. They're scared of them.
A giant flaming rooster.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't be scared of that, though?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to be a fucking owlbear to be scared of the giant fire rooster.
Yeah, but that's provisionally what it says. It's its biggest threat in the natural world.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's
Well, I
basically
mean-
what they're scared of.
Yeah, I guess would it what does that creature say in the morning when it wakes you up?
I hate it.
Cock-a-doodle burn.
What's the next monster, Matt?
Moving on. The next monster after that bloody stinker.
That was the second monster. Jude's pun was the second monster. Congratulations, you
God.
defeat it. 500 XP.
God, if anyone survived that took like 10d6 psychic damage
Oh my
from that
god,
one.
I'm dying.
God. This one actually might clean up after that stinker of a joke. The gelatinous cube.
Gelatinous cubes are not going to clean up after it, my man.
You might be surprised. Gelatinous cube. So basically, it's a little bit weirder of a monster. A gelatinous cube is a transparent ooze composed of mindless gelatinous matter in the shape of a cube. So when you think of this monster, think of like a jellyfish, for example, how they basically don't have a brain, they just float through the ocean. This thing kind of just moves around. It doesn't have a brain, doesn't have a mind, but it just moves around as a cube of gelatinous matter.
Hey guy, do you think Matt's trying to have a go at jellyfish life?
I was thinking that he'd moved. I mean, yeah, they're not big, small brain, very small. I was also going to question, Matt, when did you move to Texas? When did you start calling them jellyfish?
What do you mean?
You said jellyfish.
Did I say jellyfish?
Confirm this for me. Someone, God, he said jellyfish. I've got them goddamn jellyfish in my goddamn backyard.
Cool. So the average size of the Dundas Cube, let me continue before you guys start talking about jellyfish rights, is between... Jellyfish. is between 10 to 15 feet tall and wide. That's about 3 to 4.6 meters.
Ah,
Nice.
So they take shape of a giant cube.
nice.
So the average weight of this giant cube of matter is about 23 tons.
Jesus, what?
Yeah, so they're 3 meters by 4 meters of straight cubage.
3 meters by 4 meters by what? It's a cube. You can't give me 2 dimensions.
Okay, it's it's between 3 and 4 in cube
Oh, so 3 to 4 cubic
meters. Yeah.
meters? Okay.
Yes, meters
Okay.
of cube.
So what, like 1.5? I can't even do that in my head, Christ. I can't do cube root.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to cube root it. I'm trying to figure out what its dimensions are on each side.
It's 3 meters by 4 meters. 3 to 4
By
meters.
what?
Like 3 meters across or 3 meters wide, but 3 to 4, they're usually sized between 3 and 4 meters.
So then it's 3 by 3 by 3, which is 27. 27 cubic meters of stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, right. You said 3 cubic meters of stuff.
Oh, I didn't mean that. Okay,
27
thank you.
cubic meters of pure goo, pure slapping energy.
Pure jelly gelatinous matter. Yes.
Just goop.
So they are completely transparent, with a glint on the surface being the only thing that gives it away its position. Other than that, they are completely clear jelly. So it's like a window of jelly, that kind of thing. In most if you look at a picture online, most pictures you see it's blue, but that is just basically so you can see it. But they are clear.
There's stealth jellies?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
They also often have random objects floating around inside them
My favorite.
that have been absorbed by the cube. These range from weapons to furniture to bones of people that have been sucked into the cube. So often it's not completely stealth jelly because it has something stuck inside it.
See a big old skeleton floating towards you,
Yes.
which is potentially more scary. But
That is true.
Oh no, it's a ghost!
oh no, it's just a jelly cube. Oh no, it's a jelly cube.
It's getting worse.
They are moldable, so able to flow around objects and pass through narrow passages and then quickly return to their cubic shape.
It's like a sharp cube or like a smooth cube?
A sharp, I can't imagine it be sharp. It's made of jelly, but like they keep like a sharp shape.
I'm imagining like those like cut jelly cubes out of like some jello.
Yeah, very wobbly as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
so wobbly. Slap that stuff. It'll look good.
Just like the jellyfish.
Just like the jellyfish.
So to give a perspective on how hard it is actually to see is actually you need a 15 DC check, which for everyone out there that's hard. So it is hard to see these things for a normal
10's
person.
about an average.
Yeah,
so
10's
if we talk about scores between 1 and 20, usually it's 10's about average. 15's hard, 20's pretty damn hard,
Very
and
hard.
25 is very impossible. Up to 30, it's
30's impossible, yeah.
Not 100% impossible, but it's classified as an impossible task.
Yeah, it's classified as impossible. Yes, so that is basically the creature. Other than that, it basically doesn't do much. So in combat, is immune to a lot of emissions. It's immune to being blinded, charmed, deafened, exhausted, because it doesn't really have a brain or ears. Or
Yeah, it doesn't have any of those things.
What it does have is blind sight. So blind sight basically is for 60 feet around it, it can just know what's there. So it can just sense what is in 60 feet around it. Other than that, outside of that 60 feet around it, it is completely blind. So it can kind of see the shape of everything around it. It also is able to engulf creatures inside it. But
That's how it gets the skeletons.
Yes, exactly. So basically, the behavior of a gelatinous cube. A gelatinous cube, it's a mindless predator that roams around ancient crypts and vaults in regular, predictable patterns. They were more common in heavily frequent dungeons due to the more readily available food to eat on. They travel the halls of old ruins, absorbing any material in their path, from floors to walls. In this way, they act as a somewhat a cleaner.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
So they kind of absorb everything in their path.
Yeah, it's a thing from the old, like, Forgotten Realms stuff, that it's always, like, the campaign books they put out, there's always, like, a little side note in the dungeon with the gelatinous cube saying a really, like, high perception character or player character might notice that the dungeon's incredibly clean, and then that might be a hint, like, if their character that they're playing is smart enough to realize, like, oh, hey, this super ancient dungeon's, like, not got a trace of dirt or bones and stuff in it.
Or
That's
dust
interesting.
or anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
They leave behind a perfectly clean path, except occasionally they leave a slimy trail behind.
Tasty.
So basically, like for awesome wizards or high powerful creatures, with a dungeon, this could come in handy as basically a giant killer Roomba to keep round. Keep their little dungeon
Are these
clean.
guys like growing out of mold? Do they like move in? Like again, how they get there? Is it just occasionally they put down this big, massive Roomba to just wander around?
They kind of just appear.
In that sense, if they're growing out of, like, mold and stuff, does that in theory mean that if you leave something dirty long enough, it'll eventually clean itself?
Oh boy! Oh jeez!
Like,
I was also thinking.
I've been trying to tell, like, my family for years that's what happened to my bedroom when I was younger. If I just leave it dirty long enough, it'll stop being dirty.
If that's true, our flat's going to become clean very, very, very soon.
Oh, nice.
I mean, we haven't cleaned it all year.
I was thinking, like, what if they had, like, you had a royal family who wanted, like, a really clean, like, good-looking crypt. They're like, I know it's dangerous. We are going to put a jelly in here just to keep this shit clean.
I mean, I'd like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they are incapable of climbing walls. Particularly large gelatinous cubes can also absorb mold and moss from the ceilings, though. So if they're like sliding, so they fit perfectly into the place, they'll absorb off the ceiling.
That's utterly terrifying.
Yeah.
Like a square corridor, and there's just a giant cube coming down the corridor.
Yeah, there's no way
like
to get
a full
past.
wall. That's some Indiana Jones shit.
It's so good. It has like a suction cup effect.
Oh my god.
Oh.
The jellyfish is coming.
So inside the jelly, organic matter is quickly dissolved. So that's when they engulf people.
Oh, it's
in
acidic.
An acidic ooze that is made up of the cube's body. While bone and inorganic matter, such as their clothes or their swords or weapons, may spend some time floating around within the creature until it is eventually expelled out the back.
So it do shit.
It does.
Yeah. So, as I said before, they have blind sight. So, gelatinous cubes cannot see or hear, but they are capable of sensing vibrations and are attracted to warmth. So, if they can feel you there, about 60 feet, they can feel your warmth, they'll just come towards you.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. Additionally, you could use it in your benefit. It could maybe feel fire and may think it's someone else and go towards the fire.
So you just set a fire trap and it would just slide on into it.
Exactly.
I was also thinking, you said it dumped stuff out the back when it was like finished dissolving it. Like, that's not a great Roomba. Imagine if your Roomba, every time it got full, would just dump its shit out behind it and just keep going.
But, like,
That
at the
is
same
true.
time, the weapons and clothes and bones and stuff, they're perfectly clean.
Oh,
They are
good
perfectly
point.
clean.
So,
It's like
like...
So
It's
imagine
like
if your Roomba picked up pens and just picked it out the back.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Well, to be
Yeah.
honest, in the current situation, I was thinking about puzzle pieces.
Oh, puzzle pieces.
there you go,
fair
that
enough.
as well. That is actually kind of really good if you think about it, because all the random shit that you lose, like the pens and coins that you drop behind the sofa, this thing cleans them all up and then puts them together in a little expulsion plum.
Yum.
So despite their slow speed, they move at about half the speed of a normal human moving. Gelatinous cubes are strong and can easily push back or over large creatures. So when facing an object, a gelatinous cube will slam it with its acidic, and if I get this word wrong, psychopod? Pseudopod.
Pseudopod, yeah.
Or attempt to engulf it. So the pseudopod is basically, it can extend a tentacle, kind of like a tentacle, kind of like an arm. Just a gelatinous kind of like string it puts out and tries to hit you with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, because it's all jelly, it's constantly in motion and fluid. It just kind of like a piece of the jelly kind of out towards you, you know?
Yeah, I see them as tentacles kind of thing.
Yeah.
When touching a creature, the cube secretes a jelly paralyzing substance, which immediately absorbs into the skin and into the victim's bloodstream. After successfully engulfing a creature, so that basically makes them paralyzed, so they can't move. So they can't struggle out of the way when they're absorbing it. So after the gelatinous cube successfully engulfs a victim, the cube moves pockets of acidic digestive substances around towards a victim's body, quickly digesting it. Despite being... Yeah, exactly. Yum. Despite being extremely effective against flesh, as we said before, it does not have any effect on organic matter or bones. Survivors of gelatinous cube attacks may display scars resembling partially melted wax.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a burn victim, I guess, like an acid burn victim.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of horrible.
Yeah, I mean, you do brush over this a lot in D&D, but the people who are like the player characters will usually get incredibly maimed.
Yeah, we don't really have scars at all.
I mean, we do have scars, we just don't note them.
That's true. You get down to death quite a lot. God.
I mean, one of our guys got picked up by a fucking dragon the other day, and I can guarantee that she's got some scars from that.
Yeah, and I was shot in the back twice, and I guarantee I still have some scars from that. It is possible, although difficult, to escape these creatures once you've been absorbed by them. If you're strong enough, you can force yourself out of them. This is if you've been able to resist the paralyzing substance. So because gelatinous cubes have no brain, mind-altering effects are completely useless against them.
Oh.
So you can't charm, you can't trick, you can't confuse a thing that has no brain to do so.
You cannot seduce the jelly.
You cannot seduce the jelly. Moving on from there, gelatinous cubes produce asexually. When they absorbed enough, they become big enough. By either dividing themselves into two, which that happens when they become too big, of two equal-sized jellies, or via buddying. So the second case is when a smaller cube is extracted into a side corridor or pile of refuge and left to fend for itself. It's basically when it's been a little part of the cube has been cut off.
Right, yeah, okay.
And basically it fends for itself until it grows into a full-size cube.
Isn't that a thing where if you use slashing damage, like a sword or something on it, it splits?
Yeah, some of the jellies do that.
Depends on which ones you're looking at, yes.
Yeah, so, to clarify that, there are many different types of oozes and jellies and things in D&D. All have different effects and different little abilities they have. I thought the gelatinous cube is one of my favorites. It's so weird that it's just a giant cube that floats around.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a good
nasty
one. Yeah, it's also one of the simple ones you can understand. Some of the oozes are really confusing. So the smaller cubes are not cared for and run the risk of being absorbing by their parents on their next trip round that corridor.
That'd be a bit
Just
awkward.
dropping them off at daycare.
So cubes, youngest cubes that survive that, they do rapidly grow into adults, though. When two gelatinous cubes meet, they can temporarily fuse into a larger form, acting as a single creature.
They could remain in this formed fusion state for up to a few days, but before splitting, because it's in their nature when they get too big to split. And they go their separate ways after that.
Is there a reason for them to meet? Like, is it just because they crash into each other, or is it
because they need to defeat their arch nemesis with the power of friendship.
Exactly. They have to team up. No, they just crash into each other. Yeah. It's
They're putting together a team, Matthew.
If two crash into each other, you think you're the only gelatinous cube out in the world.
Gelatinous squiggling noises in response. I don't fucking
The
know.
gelatinous Nick Fury.
Just a gelatinous cube with a knife.
So that's
Gelatinous
it.
cube with a knife is the worst enemy in Dungeons and Dragons.
Gelatinous cube with a knife.
Oh no. Sorry, I just thought of the Vine where it's like, what have you got there? A knife. No.
Oh.
Wouldn't that make a gelatinous cube way more dangerous if it was like living in like an armory or something like that? Like you get
Oh my
sucked into the
God.
cube and there's just a bunch of knives
Just a
in
bunch
there.
of knives.
You're trying to struggle your way out and just keep getting cut.
That's like a saw trap. That
It
sucks.
is.
Oh, God.
It is. Oh shit.
Christ. All right. Well, that nightmare's gonna live with me forever.
Cool.
So that is the gelatinous cube. Any other comments or questions about him? Or her? It?
Nope.
Awesome.
Knife gelatinous cube is the worst.
I think jellyfish is still worse, but
Knife gelatinous cube is best gelatinous cube. Change my mind.
Imagine if two jellyfish crashed together and made a bigger jellyfish.
that'd be horrifying.
Oh,
Can you
imagine just a giant... Because you know it's in jellyfish season when there's like 200 of them.
Yeah.
Imagine instead of 200 of just one giant jellyfish flops up on shore.
Would you rather
God.
one giant
does this
sized
sound
jellyfish or
like a-
200 tiny jellyfish?
Why does the 200 jellyfish fusing into one in jellyfish season? Why does this sound like a Dwayne Johnson movie that's coming out next summer?
I think one big jellyfish would be better because if you killed it, you could use it like a trampoline.
Yeah, this is true. This is cool. That'd be fun. Bouncy jellyfish.
Give me my next trampoline, Matthew. What's up?
Okay. Next up, we have a classic of D&D, the Mimic.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So, the Mimic is the ultimate object shapeshifter. The average Mimic occupies a volume of approximately 4.2 cubic meters, or 150 cubic feet. No, that's not right. Sorry. 15 cubic feet, I believe that's right.
How big's that? That's like a... I'm trying to look around my room and find something that's about 4 cubic meters. Like a desk chair? No.
Yeah, so they usually take the forms of chairs or sometimes small tables or chess. So they assume any shape provided it retains its same volume. This is mostly common items such as doors, chest, and other objects likely to be touched. The texture and color of the skin of a mimic will perfectly match the object, whether it's wood, stone, metal, or any other natural basic material. The natural state of a mimic is a light grey hue of skin with a very hard stone-like texture. And they can come in any shape. They do not have a particular shape. So there's no a standard. If you want to stay at standard, mimics are made to be other objects. They don't really stay themselves ever.
Do they have a self form?
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Their standards, their natural state is a skin of light grey hue. That is the texture and hardness of the smoothest of stone.
Yeah, but like, do they have a natural shape? Like,
No.
is it
Are they
naturally
like
like a?
There is
Is
no
it like a little, like a greyish blob thing, or
Is it another slime?
I wouldn't say they have a natural shape. They just in whatever shape they come in because they can become any shape. Probably like a blob to start off with before they become any shape.
I was
they
gonna
want.
say like a mimic's just been born from mimic. I don't know, whatever.
So I will
And-
describe how they're born. They do become born with knowledge.
Oh, they have the knowledge.
So the form you see in the grey hue is very rare because of this knowledge. If you were to cut a mimic open, they would be filled with brown pigmentation fluid, which they use to change their body.
Fair enough.
And inside you would be able to probably, if you looked hard enough, you could find a few organs which create the pigmentation fluid.
Ooh.
Yeah, weird. So yeah, there are two sub-races of mimics, the killer mimic and the common mimic.
Oh.
So we'll be talking about the common mimic, but the only real difference between the killer mimic is that the killer mimics are double the size and can't speak.
The common ones can?
Sorry?
Common ones can? That's terrifying.
Yeah. So the killer mimics are basically have evolved down the bigger killer dumb route. Evolved to be large objects such as wardrobes, bed, and they focus purely on eating. So mimics through their skin can detect heat from 90 feet or about 27 meters. But these sensors can be overwhelmed by flashes or overwhelming heat. Right. So, for example, a fire or flashing torches, stuff like that. If it's
Fire does seem to answer a lot of these, doesn't it?
Yeah, fire is an interesting one.
Albert, set it on fire. Gelatinous cube, light a bonfire. Mimic, put a bonfire in front of it.
Well, yeah, fire is terrifying for many creatures, and that's in the real world as well.
Yeah.
As a real thing, kids. This has been fun, and we're having a good time here. Don't play with fire. Don't fuck around. Fire will kill you.
This has been your.
This has been a PSA.
PSA for the day. Live by law PSA. Stay away from fire. This has been your
Australian hosts.
Hey kid, you see that fire? Don't touch it.
Don't touch that fire. It's a bad fire.
Stay safe.
Be scared of fire, like a mimic.
Exactly.
I'll be honest, if there's any kids watching this podcast, they've got bigger issues on their hands than playing with fire, I think.
I think if anyone's watching this podcast, then they've got big issues.
Just because they are listening to the podcast does not mean they should not stay away from fire, Jude. Exactly.
This is true.
Exactly. Thank you. And as stated earlier, mimics can speak common language. So basically, for those who don't know, common language is basically all races speak common. It's basically so most creatures can understand each other. So you don't have an elf and a dwarf. I speak Elvish, I speak Dwarvish, can't understand each other. Everyone speaks common.
Most races can speak their own language, Dwarvish or Elvish or something, and also common, just to make things easier to play.
Exactly. So mimics can speak common, mimic, their own language, and undercommon. So undercommon, also for people, there is the world below the world in caves and stuff like. There's a huge cave world which is basically called the Underdark, and down there they mostly speak undercommon, which is a subset of common. So mimics prefer to be underground in basements and dungeons and basements. Mimics have no concerns beyond surviving and acquiring food. Even though they can speak, they have no culture, no moral code, and no interest in religion at all. Even though they can be reasoned with and even bargained with, for they do not want to die, but often can't help their hunger and end up getting themselves killed in the long run. So a mimic will often exchange food for safe passage, but are equally likely to take the food and then eat the person.
That's fair.
For example, if they take in the form of a door, they might say, "I will let you past if you feed me," for instance. And then when they feed them, they just eat them anyway.
Yeah.
Tricksy.
Exactly. They move by basically using their strong adhesive to make themselves the strong adhesive they make and dragging themselves around by their pseudopods, similar to the pseudopod from the gelatinous cube. Basically, they can create this strong adhesive. Ew. I can't speak today, which sucks when you have a verbal medium to do. Look. So this strong adhesive is basically something they can excrete from any part of their skin. So anything that touches their skin, unless they are very strong, cannot be let go unless they want it to. So they can just suck. If you touch it, you won't be able to let go. You won't be able to pull your hand away unless they want you to be able to pull away.
So we have a monster who can clean very well and a monster who can create glue. I think that we're on our way to a primary school art room sort of teaching assistant slime gang.
Slime gang.
Aren't we?
We can get one that produces coloured slime, and now we've got a paint gang. Now we're getting somewhere.
Does this mean that the next creature is going to be some kind of like chill teacher thing, or?
Hell yes, it is. I know it is.
Sure. But yeah, they basically use this adhesive to drag themselves around. Mimics hunt by standing perfectly still and disguise themselves as an object and waiting for a creature to come in contact with them. Once they come in contact, they activate their adhesive and then they attack the victim.
Yeah.
They then morph their body using the pseudopods they excrete from their body to attack and restrain the creature. The adhesive can be weakened, however, by the application of alcohol over a few seconds, and which is completely neutralized in less than a minute after the mimic's death. So if the mimic dies, the adhesive stuff stops working.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So
but you can use alcohol. Yeah, it is. So it's kind of like a psychic link, but because they're completely touching it, you could call it a chemical link. So they keep excreting it to keep you stuck there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I would think it's more like there's like the slime isn't like actually a gluey substance. It's just like a membranous sort of thing, and there's like little tiny tentacles in there that are actually holding you in.
No, I don't want to think about that.
Piercing into you. God.
Yeah. Oh God.
I'm sorry, I'm making criminal thoughts today.
Well, it's like when you see a close up of a jellyfish tentacle and their stingers, and it's just like
the tiny little ones. Yeah, like that.
yeah.
Precisely. That's what I was thinking.
I hate that so much. Oh.
Well, I was also thinking about some movies I watched the other day, which just have these little sort of tentacle monsters. Like there's that I don't know what it is. It's like a sea creature, but it like spits out a whole bunch of little white sort of like tentacle vine things when it's trying to eat something. Because it's looking around.
I don't want to know what that is.
I'll find out what it is later.
fair enough.
Yeah, there are we don't have to talk about monsters in D&D. There's monsters out on our fucking ocean.
There's monsters in the ocean.
God. Although mimics usually are solitary hunters, they often share vast territories with other species. So a meal of 1 or 2 humanoids can sustain a mimic for several weeks.
Oh, that's good. So they need to eat like 2 people every few months.
Exactly.
Very polite.
They can be very patient. They just sit there and wait for months for someone else to come by. So
what a life, though. Just disguising yourself as a chair, sitting there, and just having someone eventually walk by and you're like, "Ha, it's showtime."
He doesn't even sit down. Just walks straight past the chair. Fuck. I didn't plan this well. Should have been a chest. Adventurers always go for the chest.
Yes.
They reproduce very similar to the gelatinous cube by splitting. When they become big enough and they're eaten enough, they split into 2, then grow into adulthood after a few years. So similarly, the brain of it would split into 2, obviously, so you would remember what the other one did. So you still know how to turn to an object.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So their brain also splits in 2.
I mean, that's another thought. Is it like I can close my hand. People who have amnesia don't forget how to move. Like, is it a specific knowledge thought? Like, is it like painting a painting? Are some mimics better at changing into objects than other mimics?
Yeah, well, some creatures can fly in days of it being born.
Yeah, so I would assume that the transformation ability would be akin to that. But of course, some people can do it better than others. So I'm saying, is there a mimic that's really good at what they do?
Really,
Are there
really
mimic
good.
Olympics?
They're already perfect. Like the average mimic, if you look at the stats, they have false appearance. While a mimic remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from an ordinary object. Meaning, not even the person with the highest perception in the world could tell. They are indistinguishable.
It's pretty good.
Nice. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. They're very good at what they do. So the skin of a mimic can actually be used for a polymorph potion. So that's a little bit of how it works in the lore. So I like these little things on the end because it makes it feel like a real world. Like if the real world, how would they use mimics? So if they can be able to they can change their skin, so use it to change someone else.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The adhesive stuff they secrete. God. Secretions. That doesn't sound right to me. Is that right? That is right.
Secretions is 100% right, yes.
Yeah, okay, I'm just weird.
Yep.
The adhesive secretions could also be sold, can be sold by a chemist, and internal organs of a mimic can be used to produce perfumes and food.
Food.
Yep. Imagine the perfume. Oh, what's your perfume, dear? Oh, so it's the organs of a mimic. Yeah.
Isn't there I forget the name of it, but isn't there like the perfume that's like
That's
from
from
Wales? Yeah.
Ambergris,
yeah.
yes.
Ambergris, that's it. Yeah.
What? What is that?
Ambergris.
It's like
the stuff-
worm
it's-
spew.
Yeah, so essentially it's a form of, I think it's a form of mucus that builds up on the inside of whales' stomach maybe. And it's basically like a white ball. And I don't know how it relates to the perfume making process, but it's used for making very expensive perfumes.
Interesting.
Mostly rolls up on the beach due to the fact that, of course, whale hunting is illegal. So you've kind of just got to hope that they buff it out.
Yeah. And I did say food there because some cultures consider mimic organs a tasty delicacy.
I mean, the Swedish are doing some stuff out here with rotten fish, so we've all got our thing.
Exactly. So you've all got our thing. So that is the mimic.
Lovely.
Moving on.
Yes.
Awesome. So we have the Beholder. So moving up the power level and the excitement level a little bit. For those who don't know, a Beholder is a classic, very, very, very well-known D&D monster, which is basically a giant floating sphere with eyes. So they are basically, on average, 8 feet tall and wide. So that's approximately 2.4 meters. They have a giant. So they're a giant sphere with one giant eyeball in the middle of their head, like a cyclops. And underneath that eyeball is a mouth full of sharp teeth underneath it. And coming out of the top of that sphere are 10 tentacles, each with their own eye on top of it.
Jesus.
So for those who aren't looking at it, basically each mimic is different, and they have a lot of variants, but that's basically the description of the basic mimic.
Do you mean
mimic,
Beholder?
I meant Beholder, sorry.
Right,
Beholder.
okay, yeah.
So they have one giant eyeball in the middle of their body with a giant mouth underneath and tentacles coming out. I imagine that to give a description, the tentacles are kind of like Medusa's hair, but there's 10 of them, and at the end of them is an eye instead of a snake head.
Imagine like a shitty cyclops octopus with tentacle eyes.
Yeah, it's very weird and disgusting.
It's bad. It's a bad creature.
They also float / fly to get around.
Yes, they do.
Using similar magic to the fly spell. There are many variants where they can come in any color and a lot of different shapes and sizes due to how they're created, which we'll talk about later. There are also many sub-races, which we won't go into today because there's a lot to talk about beholders. We'll just talk about the basic ones. The common depiction of a beholder is pink skin. It's kind of like human skin, but a lot tougher. So being reinforced by magic. That's the common depiction. So if it would feel and look like human skin, that's been basically just a lot stronger.
It looks sort of like wrinkly, like powerful wrinkly. Like a strong man's hands.
Yeah. Imagine a strong man's hands over an entire giant floating eyeball that's 2.4 meters big.
I'm not saying strong man. I'm saying a strongman, like a circus man who picks stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why, but whenever I picture a circus strongman, I always picture him completely bald with a small twirly black mustache.
And with like dumbbells that are very round.
And like
His
that
Yeah.
singlet that's like prison striped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all on the ball. It's
We're all
okay.
on the same board.
Yeah.
With their 11 eyes, the one big one and 10 small ones, they can see through any of them, so it is nearly impossible to sneak up on a beholder. They also lack the ability to see color, but can see in the dark instead.
I mean, I think I'd probably take that exchange, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. You might take that for a little bit of a swap. So before we get into their behavior, we'll talk about the abilities of one. So let's start by talking about their eye rays. So they have 10 tentacles, and each tentacle with an eye has its own power,
A what?
has its own magical ability. It can
No,
do.
that's terrifying. That wasn't me. Yeah, that's Jesus.
So we'll go through all 10. So basically in combat, it's random which one it uses, which makes it even more scary. It's random which ones are used. So it doesn't use the most powerful ones every time, obviously. So on a roll of 1 to 10, so number 1 is a charm ray, which basically just charms the creature for an hour.
Can I just quickly throw in a small thing?
Yeah, go for it.
With the so when the DM's playing with a beholder as their main thing, they have to, when they want to use an eye ray, they have to roll the dice to randomly determine which one it is. Is it a D10 from memory, or is it?
It's a D10, yes.
Yeah. And then, like, so Matt's saying, on a roll of a 1 to 2 on the D10, it uses that one. So it's kind of a bit random, because ideally, when the Dungeon Master's using it, they select a player. Well, they kind of have a target in mind, and then they roll the effect. So it's kind of like, that's not necessarily what he would have chosen to do, but that's what he's doing, so it's fun.
We'll talk about their personalities and behaviors instead, which kind of fits with it, because they're not really usually under control of their own minds. So the first one's a charming ray. Basically charms the creature, which basically, for players who don't play D&D, puts the creature under kind of a spell, charming spell. So they won't like attack the creature and think it's a friend for an hour, or until the beholder harms that creature. Number 2 is a paralyzing ray, which just paralyzes the creature for a minute. Number 3 is a fear ray, which makes the creature frightened of the creature, which in D&D sense means they can't move towards that creature, and every action has to be in fear of that creature. So you can still attack and stuff, but you can't physically move towards that creature, and usually you'll be trying to move away. The 4th is a slowing ray, which halves the target's speed for a minute. Imagine trying to run away from getting hit by that. Oh, that'd be horrible. They also can't use reactions, which basically means they can't react on other people's turns. They can't use abilities.
Certain abilities let you sort of do it as a reaction to something else happening. Other things require a bit more time and preparation, but sometimes you can, defend someone or something like that for a very quick sort of thing.
You have the Enervation spell, ray, which basically does a lot of damage, not a necrotic damage, basically just takes away their health from them. The telekinetic ray, which basically it restrains the creature, basically holds them by telekinetic grip on the creature. So basically telekinesis, they grab hold of the creature like that. The 7th one is a sleep ray, puts the creature to sleep for a minute. The 8th one is a petrification ray, which the creature begins to turn to stone and is restrained, which is terrifying.
That's awful. Yeah, this creature just sucks all sorts of ways. I want the sleep ray thus far. This is kind of my winner.
Yeah. On a failure, the creature is petrified until freed by greater restoration or other magic, which is a pretty high level spell. Number 9 is disintegration ray, which does a ton of damage, and if reduced to 0 health, they just disintegrate into a pile of dust. And number 10 is a death ray, which does even more damage, and if the creature gets to 0, the creature just straight up dies.
I think Guy's favorite one's the disintegration ray, if I'm honest.
No.
No, that's our friend James's favorite ray. James nearly died by attacking a creature and getting hit by a disintegration ray.
Guy did die from a beholder disintegration ray.
Yeah, once upon a time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, rays. We had a
remember.
single one shot where our characters were sort of some of them were quite likely to die, and I had a very cool parkour boy who did just sort of jump in front of a disintegration ray and did super turn to dust.
I was
One of the
there
other
for
bits.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the other bits is that when you turn to 0 hit points, usually you go down, which just means that you've been knocked unconscious. Usually there's ways to get players back up after that, so it's not too much of an issue. If you leave them down too long, they will die, but disintegration rays and some other abilities will kill them instantly and is so massively terrifying to go up against, because usually some campaigns can go on for months at a time, so you get very attached to these characters. It's like a TV show, except you're in control of one of the characters. Yeah.
I did describe it as a game earlier. I more describe it as it's kind of like a hobby, more like, because so you kind of go to that hobby every week, and you kind of you get really attached to the characters you're doing. It's kind of like a TV show. So every time you sit down to a session, it's kind of like you're meeting those characters, and those characters, like, if everyone's ever watched a TV show and their favorite character has died, it's that, but even worse, because you are that character. You made the decisions.
Yeah, there's a good reason why people who are into D&D usually will not shut the fuck up about it, because they are. It's intense. It's a very good thing to get into, but can
Like
be
we've
a
been on
big
for
commitment.
a year now, and we're
Nearly.
level 7.
Well, that's because of the pace that we're running that campaign at. So
That's true.
everything's different. Sometimes there's one shots, which you can do very quickly, but yes.
That's true. That's true.
Next monster? Or are we still on
We're
Behold?
still on beholders. Sorry, that was just
He's
a weekend
beholding
eye
me.
raise. So now we're getting into the behavior. So, a good way to describe the behavior of a beholder is they are very xenophobic and vicious creatures. So beholders are very quick to attack enemies, and anyone who they deem not like themselves is an enemy. Beholders, as a rule, are violent and greedy, hungering for both wealth and power over others. This is in their very nature. There are more than one variety of holders to exist. As I described earlier, there are many different varieties of beholders. They look in colors, different shapes, different abilities. You know what I mean? But each of them believe itself to be the pinnacle of bodily perfection, and they view other beholders as that differ in their image, even the most minute details, as loathsome enemies and inferiors. So even if they have the same thing, but they have one tiny difference, their teeth are a different shape or a different color, that they're a heathen. They're not even the same race as them.
It's an imperfection.
Exactly. The beholder's mind, I don't know if you guys know this, is actually split into 2 entities. Each of these entities can think and act on its own accord, even though it is bound to the same body. Neither half of the beholder's mind trusts the other one, so they hide a lot from the other part of the mind, creating a very paranoid relationship. Quote-unquote sane beholders are beholders whose minds are not divided, so to speak. So they still have 2 entities inside their brain, but they don't hide anything from each other, and they're less paranoid. So basically, a sane, quote-unquote, beholder is one that both sides of the brain trust each other.
It's good to have those trusting relationships with your brain and itself, you know?
I know, right? Yeah. However, the persona of a sane beholder was just as likely to be considered insane by any other beholder. Sorry. and it just is also be considered insane by any non-beholder, because they are just as ruthless, just as loathsome, just as paranoid. They just manage to trust themselves, and that's enough for them. That's enough to be called insane. Sane, sorry.
Jesus.
Because there are two entities within a single beholder, the beholder should always be addressed by its full name when in conversation with them, or they could perceive that it's speaking to one side of one entities or the other. And I mean, you wouldn't want to be rude and only speak to one side of the brain, right?
Exactly. That'd be
so rude.
like going as a guest to someone's house and then only speaking to one of the two people that live there and just blanking the other person.
But imagine if you went to go see one of them, you didn't want to see the other.
Then that'd be a bit awkward, wouldn't it?
A bit awkward, yeah. It's like the same body. Beholders are not particularly strong, but they are inherently magical creatures, with each of the eye possessing magic, as we described earlier. Beholders who often attack seemingly with no reason will often try to end a battle as quickly as possible, unleashing all their most powerful abilities at once.
That's a good strat.
Yeah, this is because they may be vicious enough to start an attack, but once they're in the battle, they're scared of even being in one. So because they're paranoid and scared of everything, even being in a battle terrifies them. Even though they could be versing anything, they'd still be terrified.
So they're massive shut-ins, but they're super dangerous.
Exactly, yeah. So among the most basic of these attacks was their deadly ability to project magical power through their eyes. As we've said before, any combination of these can be very, very deadly, as we described before. But additionally, they have a power from their middle eye that we didn't describe earlier. So many beholders also have the capacity to use their central eye, the big one, to project an anti-magic field that can cancel any effect of any supernatural abilities within a cone of 150 feet or 50 meters.
Wild.
So this eliminates all magic. Doesn't matter how powerful it is. Doesn't matter what thing. No save. It just destroys. The magic is gone. In addition to enemy spells, prayers, or similar effects, this often affects the beholder's own eye rays, suppressing their own power. However, the inability to cast their eye rays at full strength is hardly a hindrance, as it allows the beholder to attack its enemies with its giant teeth and giant mouth.
Yup.
So if they just turn off all the magic, they'll just fucking bite your head off.
It's like, sweet, we got away from the eye rays. Now what? Oh shit, it's opening its mouth.
Yeah, it's also a giant 2.4 meter tall and wide giant mauling machine.
Yeah.
It's a big ball of bad.
Yeah. Beholders often occupy deep underground caverns. Frequently, these lairs are carved out by the beholders themselves, using their eye rays to mold the environment around them.
Jesus.
Often these lairs are built vertically rather than horizontally. Unlike most buildings, with beholder architecture frequently exhibiting a large number of vertical shafts which beholders and other flying creatures could use with ease, while walking creatures found their navigation is hindered. Because,
I mean, if I could fly, I would probably build my room sort of differently, to be sure.
Exactly. Why would you make a dungeon that you could walk through when you can fly?
Precisely. And well, the other thing is, like, you could just make everything a lot more dense. It would be good. And like, all my top shelves. I'm looking at my top shelf in my cupboard right now. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff up there that's just sort of, I'm never going to use it. It's like you toss it up on this top shelf. But if I could fly, I'd change all that. I'd put my books up there. I'd put everything that I don't want to use down the bottom. I don't like bending down.
Yeah,
no, I agree to that. Yeah, it's a smart idea. But you gotta feel sorry for the servants of the beholders who can't fly.
Yeah, I mean, that would kind of suck.
It would suck hard. You're like, oh shit, I gotta get up there before 10.
Beholders trying to tell you to go up there.
Sir, could we make a bridge across this chasm into your lair?
Why would I do that?
Fly.
Just keep flying.
Because we lose half our employees every day when they can't make the jump.
Trying to climb up a shaft, you're like clinging onto the wall, you slip like, like, you know, ruddling and all that sort of stuff, and you see the beholder fly past. Catch up, idiots.
Also good, they're dead. They can't kill me now because they're so paranoid.
I imagine he's like, I'm ducking your pay if you're not up here in half an hour.
Good. I'm ducking your pay. I'm going to kill you if you're not up here in half an hour. God. So beholders have religion, if you think about it. So they pray and worship mostly to many gods, but mostly to the god Gizmendin and the Great Mother. So that's their two favored ones. Beholders are so powerful that they can dream. They can make whatever they dream real. So because they're so anything you dream about, they can basically dream into reality. So if they dreamed about a really good cake, they could wake up and the cake would be right next to them. The exact cake from their dream.
That's kind of wild.
It is kind of wild, but unfortunately, because they're so paranoid, they often have nightmares.
Oh no.
And they often dream about things they fear, which isn't great for them. One thing they fear, above all else, is other beholders coming in and taking over them. And this is often how beholders are made.
Oh my god.
Dreamt into existence by other beholders. No one really knows how the first beholder was made, but it's guessed that it was made by experimentations by a wizard.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lich or something like that, where the wizard tries to keep themselves alive in a more powerful form.
Yeah.
Either a wizard tried it or a god made it as a joke. But beholders literally are conflicting their own being. They become existent through the fear of becoming existence, you know?
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Which is kind of wild. Yeah, so a beholder that is dreamt in existence, so they'll usually serve under the other beholder unless they're immediately attacked by the big one, until they eventually think that because of, obviously they're a beholder, they think they're too good for the other beholder, and they either try and overthrow or become their own beholder, you know?
I mean, I'm thinking about it. This is one of those fun things about D&D campaigns. You can think up ideas as you go, and I've just had like a thought of, you have a mission where you've got to go and save a beholder because it's accidentally trapped itself in a cave full of horrifying monsters. And like the village town people are like, oh no, the beholder's up there, it's protecting itself. And you find the beholder in like the back corner of the cage, barricaded in a room, like,
Please save me.
Please go.
Every time I go to sleep, a new nightmare wakes up. It doesn't help that I keep having nightmares because of the nightmares.
That's how campaigns come along, though. You just think up an idea like that, and sometimes that will work for just a one shot to start things off. It
does sound fun. You have to save it's a really nice beholder as well. It's one of the rare nice ones.
Precisely.
Okay, so that is beholders. Next, we'll be moving on to the aboleths. So, a basic description of the aboleth is a whale-sized eel with psionic powers. So,
a whale-sized eel already has me at nope, not gonna lie.
yeah. Yeah, if you look up a photo of it, they're not fun when you look at them. Their average length is 20 feet or 6.2 meters. Their average weight being about 3,000 kilograms. But that is their average feet. But because they keep growing and as we'll talk about later, they do not age, they have been found to be up to 40 feet or 12 meters long.
Jesus.
They have long tube-like bodies, as well as a giant tail that comes out of one end, and two fins near the head, and more down its back. Their mouths are circular and filled with serrated jawless teeth. So basically, they don't have like a top jaw and bottom jaw. They have a circle that closes and opens. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
If you imagine if you look up like a leech kind of mouth, it's kind of similar to that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They also have a number of tentacles and tendrils that come off their head, which differ in size and length and thickness. Their blood is green and thick, oozing like sap, like tree sap. Jesus. They have 3 eyes, and they sit above its mouth on its head, one on top of the other in a line. So it goes, one eye is like just above, then above that eye is an eye, then above that eye is another eye. The breath of a aboleth is a thick grey mucus-like substance that comes out, which comes out. Sorry. Ew. I said breath. I mean, let me start that sentence again. They breathe.
One more time, Matt. One more time.
Try again.
They breathe a thick grey mucus-like substance which comes out of their body and covers them. They have to have this substance to breathe, and they would suffocate without it. They tend to stick to water, but can come out of it for small times, though their skin dries up, and eventually the aboleth would enter a state of suspended animation, which they call long dreaming, a fate considered by aboleths far worse than simply dying among aboleths. So basically, they resent being long sleep, so that is why they stick to being in water. In this state, their skin hardens basically to rock, and it becomes extremely hard to penetrate. Basically, they become petrified in that kind of sense.
Right. Yeah.
Can they move?
No, they cannot move.
Oh my god, no!
So they literally become petrified.
They basically they become petrified, and their brain goes into a long hibernation. They don't come out of it until they are put back in water.
Oh, it's like one of those toys you'd get where it was like in an egg, and then you leave the egg in water, and the toy would expand. I forget what they were called. They were like a geographic store thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I once left my thing in water, and because I left it in like a shallow bucket, the head was originally in the water, but then it goes out of the water, and so I left it I forgot about it, and I left it. I think I went on a camp or something, and sorry. And when I came back, the body was like 5 times the size, bursting at the seams, and its head was just tiny at the top.
Nice.
It was ridiculous.
God, yes. I was thinking it's a little bit more like those gold statues of Buddha that they had, and they X-rayed and found that there were monk skeletons inside them.
Yes.
They did that? Holy shit, that's
Yeah.
horrible.
I mean, it's very old, and they were probably already dead. It's probably just a form of petrification. But regardless, same idea.
That's interesting.
Well, it's just the same as like the mummies, you know?
Yeah. Anyway. Aboleths, as I described earlier, do not die of old age and cannot die of disease. So, aboleths, what can they do? So, as I said earlier, aboleths have powerful psionic powers. They are naturally experts at using their minds to influence the world. Additionally, aboleths have a even more fearsome ability, their mucus that they secrete around themselves, which brings on a terrible transformation for any air-breathing creatures so unfortunate to be caught in the stuff. The skin of the victim is transformed into a membrane that allows it to breathe only water, and changes the creature's consciousness into a mindless servant.
Oh, lovely.
This allows aboleths to keep slaves, known as aboleths servitors, which they dominate and keep captive through their mind. Only the most powerful aboleths could do this. However, complete the process through a powerful ritual. So basically, anyone's a mindless servant, but they completely dominate the servants with a ritual.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So you really don't want to get too close to an aboleth and breathe in the mucus, or you become a mindless servant. And you can't return to land because you can only breathe water.
That'd be even if you get free of like the mind control thing, you're stuck in water, so have fun.
And your skin's become a membrane.
Oh, you become Mr. Monday.
Oh, God. No.
Oh, because he's stuck in the bath as well. It is Mr. Monday.
Ah, we've figured it out.
These episodes are supposed to be self-contained. You shouldn't have
No.
other episodes in these episodes, so anyone can watch any episode they want.
They can mostly. Just got to go watch the first episode of Geese of the Kingdom, which then leads to the second, third, and there's references in those to other ones, and it's a trick.
Oh shit! I got it, guy. That's what happened to the Blue Wizards.
Stop, please, stop.
And it's all magnets.
Continuing.
They'd be great mercenaries for Manco as well.
Drift balloons are gonna steal my kids.
Well, that's
You can't stop it, Matt. You can't stop the references.
God, we're gonna pull it all.
So another strange feature about aboleths is their memory. And this might be the thing you actually know about aboleth, because this is kind of the thing that's well known. An aboleth is born with a racial memory. Do you know what that means? Do you know?
I'm assuming it would be like a hive mind.
So each individual aboleth inherits the memories of their ancestors. So furthermore, it assimilates the memories of those it has consumed as well. So if it eats you, it knows your memories.
Yep.
So each aboleth's memories are stored with an ever-growing part of its brain that extends down through its back as it ages. So as an eel gets longer, its brain gets longer as well.
It's wonderful, really.
Yeah. Aboleths basically enjoy spending time lost in particularly fine memories of its ancestors. And if they have nothing better to do, they might relive entire portions of their forebearers' lives. Yeah. So basically they have the memory of all their ancestors. The entire species of aboleths have their entire memory together. And as we will talk about earlier, they are very old species. So aboleths are all hermaphroditic, hermaphroditic.
Sure.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
What does it mean?
It means they possess both male and female reproductive organs.
Oh, hermaphroditic.
Hermaphroditic. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
terrible.
if you have both, you're a hermaphrodite.
Yeah. So they possess both male and female reproductive. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm stuck on big words today. So aboleths breed, in private, laying roughly 1 to 3 eggs once every 5 years. When laid, the egg gestates for the same 5 years before hatching into fully functional aboleths. Although these young aboleths are fully functional adults because they have the entire memory of their entire species, they tend to remain with their parents for roughly a decade, obeying the elder aboleths without question before setting out on their own. Very good. They're very good children. They don't question their adults.
I mean, if you have the entirety of the experiences of your parents in your head, I assume it would be a bit easier to understand their, requests.
Yeah, it's like ultimate empathy. Like you'd be able to
Incredible
understand
empathy.
what they say. Yeah, you'd be able to understand what they're saying and what they're doing.
They'd probably be incredibly empathetic to the party as well. You just have to let them eat one of you.
Exactly. Just gotta let them eat one of them, then you're all good. Just gotta sacrifice
yeah.
one member.
Is that a way that you can switch characters?
You switch to the aboleth. Hey, Jude, could you just send me the lore of your world?
shit.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jude.
You get absorbed by an aboleth, and then nah.
Play as an aboleth. Yeah.
No, would it be more like? Would it be way more interesting? Well, just be like fun in a campaign if you had like a TPK, so basically you get events sometimes where the entire party, so all the players get killed off by something, and you refer to them as a TPK. If you had like a TPK happen for a campaign, right? So it was like a long-term campaign you'd be running, and the aboleth killed all of them and ate them, and then in the second campaign that you started, because everyone died, you came into contact with that aboleth, and it had all of those other memories and stuff.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
I mean, wouldn't that be like a cool way to just continue on the same campaign? Now there's the legend of the wise aboleth who will tell you about the struggles of the kingdom and who you've got to go defeat, and it's now the mentor to the party.
Oh my god! It ate the other party and now is your sensei master. But I don't know if you said it, but TPK means total party kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very sad. Very sad. We've never had one.
Well, no, we haven't. No.
I think we've never had a TPK. We've had characters die. I think
we
I've
haven't
died
had
a lot, but no, I think we've had a TPK.
No, we haven't.
So anyway, more about the Aboleth.
Yeah, more about the Aboleth. Sorry, I knew we were talking about our own bloody D&D. God,
I mean, there's nothing too wrong with that, is there?
that's true. Aboleths are both extremely cruel and highly intelligent. As a result, they are among the most dangerous foes in the existing multiverse. They hold many terrible secrets thanks to their unique genetics. Aboleths were born fully aware of all the memories of their ancestors, making even the youngest Aboleth a deadly predator.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they are well aware of their own weaknesses, however, and will not not attack land-bound foes if they consider themselves at a disadvantage.
Right, yeah, which is most of the time, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Aboleths are an utterly self-centered race, much like the Beholders. They know this. This is true. They are among the first beings in existence, and saw all things as theirs, having a particular loathing for land-dwelling creatures. Their enmity towards other races.
Enmity, do you mean?
Enmity, yeah, sorry.
That's right.
Words today.
Yes.
I wrote this up like a week ago. A couple of weeks ago when I was sick, and I was just using words, and there's so many spelling mistakes in this. Towards other races stemmed in part from their perception that these are upstart races that have stolen their rightful world. All that stops them from conquering the surface is their weakness on land, and the fact that they would rather enjoy themselves than waste time subduing feeble creatures such as humans.
It's like dolphins.
Basically, yeah. They're just fucking procrastinators. Wait,
Incredible.
Are you inferring that dolphins would take over the world?
Are you inferring they wouldn't?
Are you inferring that one Simpsons episode?
Matt?
Yeah, I've seen it.
They've been right about everything else, so like...
But
I mean, that's next.
Aboleths have the ability to take over the world, and they're just procrastinating. They're literally just procrastinating because they'd rather just...
Dolphins literally can't even get onto the land, and most of the time they think they're playing with us, and then they kill us by drowning us. Like, that's a creature.
Haha, you died. Whoops.
Yeah, that's a creature that could take over the world.
Yeah, 100%.
God. Holy shit, that's horrifying.
August 2020, guys.
Yeah, it's the finale.
The dolphins.
Wholly alien, but dangerously intelligent, Aboleths were among the most powerful creatures in all of the known multiverse. Although often removed from human affairs, they do not hesitate at any point to kill or use any unfortunate mortals that cross their path. Aboleth society was utterly alien in most ways to that of more familiar races, such as dwarves and elves and stuff like that, in part because of their racial memory. All Aboleths inherit, as well as their generally bizarre physiques. Some Aboleths form clusters known as broods, which are ruled over by powerful Aboleths, which are known as overseers. These broods often accompanied by a ton of Aboleth servitors and other minions to basically be servants for them and slaves, so they don't have to do any work themselves. Aboleths worship no gods. While they acknowledge this, and the reason is really interesting, because while they acknowledge the presence and power of gods, they have memories of a time long before any modern gods were worshipped, and recall such gods' birth and often demise within their own lifetimes.
God.
So
Yeah.
they basically don't consider the gods worthy because they remember a time before them.
I changed my mind. It's not dolphins, it's lobsters.
All lobsters do live forever. They are.
Correct.
Yeah, that's true.
Freaking lobsters, man.
They are not concerned with an afterlife, since their perspective on death is to consider it a failure, so that because they intend to live forever.
That's kind of fair.
They don't even like consider being dying, because that would be considered failing.
No, they couldn't possibly fail.
Of course they would.
Elves?
Aboleths do, however, have a certain respect that sometimes approaches reverence for powerful beings known as the elder evils. So they do have some sort of respect for other creatures. Sorry, was that guy?
No, I'm just saying, oh my god, like, it's like, oh no, they've seen the birth and death of these gods and they think, they're sort of fickle. But they do respect the elder evil.
Yeah. Well, the elder evils are basically an ancient, powerful, generally huge evil presence.
That's some Cthulhu shit.
Yeah. It's kind of like Cthulhu in the world of D&D. They basically, if they really wanted to, they could destroy the world. There's kind of the theory that if they really wanted to, they could destroy the entire world, but they prefer not to.
I can't wait for a Cthulhu episode at some point.
Ooh,
It's taking. I've tried to start the script for that a couple of times, but Jesus Christus, it is a full topic to cover. It's not going to be my next episode. It might be the one after.
Hey, whenever you're ready, man.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So anything else about the Aboleth, Matt?
Yeah. Because they kind of exist through all time, they use a different term to indicate a period of time. They call it a broom. Boom. Boorm. Boom. Yeah. Which basically in their language means flow. So they describe time as basically just a flow.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Which makes sense because they live in the ocean, so they see all time as just a flowing through life.
Yeah. And if you're immortal and you have all the knowledge of your ancestors always, it would make sense.
Exactly,
You don't really see days as that much of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like most adherent creatures, aboleths were originally from another basically plane of existence. They're from the far realm in D&D, which is kind of like space. I don't know, Jude, if you kind of can describe it better.
No, that's. I think for the sake of this episode, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's kind of like existence outside the dimensions of D&D.
Yeah.
There's like planes. So D&D has a different system to us. So they have planes. There's the prime material plane, which is where most of the stuff goes on. There's some elemental planes that are outside of it. Usually, it's kind of like a yin-yang sort of balancing act, along with some elemental stuff. And there's like order and chaos and stuff. The far realm is basically the one that is madness.
Yeah.
So it's like Cthulhu-esque, like horrors and demons, and where all sort of the terrifying darkness comes from.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's not really one of the balancing planes. It's sort of the backdrop, which all of them are trying to prevent being there. It's really complicated once you start getting into it. But the Far Realm is a utterly terrifying plane.
Yeah, so basically they come from a place that is outside all levels of dimensions that exist. This is where the aboleths come from. Though long ago, many of them immigrated to the prime material plane, which is why they're here now. Most aboleths dwell in the Underdark, although they can be found elsewhere. They most commonly haunt ruins, deep lakes, and old temples. Aboleth cities are vast affairs and of bizarre creatures and alien architecture, which are located deep underground. As was said earlier, aboleths originally came to the material plane when the world was very young. They came here on a giant city. So they basically, their ancient obelisk city plummeted to the ground and settled deep in the Earth's crust. So they basically came here, dropped a giant city out of the sky, and it went deep into the ground. There's a lot of old history but it's a bunch of just a lot of names and stuff like that. It's not really interesting. So, one thing I picked out of that was the oldest known aboleths, and possibly the creator of the entire species is the eldest. It's called the eldest, which is an enormous creature that sits atop the throne sits atop the city in a throne. Mm-hmm. So deep underground on top of into the city. So because they keep growing where they live, it's going to be really big by then.
Yeah.
So that is the aboleths. Mm-hmm. Creepy space creatures.
I hate them.
Yeah, they're not great. Kind of weird, and they basically can use their telepathy to communicate to anyone in a mile radius of them, and it's really creepy.
Yep, just hear a voice in your head.
Yeah, and they can also use their sonic abilities to make you see a giant illusion of them, and they can charm you through the illusion. They don't even have to be there to charm you, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, so that's the aboleths.
Mm-hmm.
We have one final creature to talk about, which is the Tarrasque.
Oh, classic.
Oh, yes, lovely.
Tarrasque. Which, give a basic description of the Tarrasque, is a huge dinosaur-like beast. It is 50 feet tall, or 15 meters, about approximately 15 meters tall, and it weighs 130 tons. The Tarrasque is an enormous dinosaur-like abomination. It has 2 long horns extending from its forehead, a thick carapace.
Yeah.
Which is like an extra shell-like layer on its back, which is covered in spikes like most of its body. It has a 20-foot-long tail, dragon-like tail, a huge mouth with rows and rows of enormous teeth, 2 small eyes above its head, but it does not rely on them to see, as it has blind sight all around it for 120 feet. It can basically sense where people are around it. Mm-hmm. The Tarrasque is also impossible to frighten or charm, and has sorry about that. And has resistances to every kind of damage imaginable. It can go about 1.5 times the pace of a human walking on the surface, whether it's walking, whether it's climbing, or whether it's burrowing through the earth.
So it's got to be just a bit faster than you wherever you try to run.
Exactly. I should have got a glass of water before I started this episode.
That's right. Push through, Matt. It's just the Tarrasque.
I'm really bad. One sec. I'm just going to cough. You guys talk about the Tarrasque for 2 secs.
The Tarrasque is known fairly universally when you start searching up D&D monsters, because in the default book, the monster manual, I'm not certain about this, Jude, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the highest challenge rating beast, which is how their monsters are sort of arranged by difficulty in defeating them.
Yeah, base game it is the highest.
Yeah, so it's a challenge rating 30. The challenge ratings are determined by taking a group of 4 players of that level, and that's like a good challenge for them. So if I have, 4 level 5 characters, a challenge rating 5 monster would be, an alright challenge for them. It's nothing difficult, but yeah. Maximum level for player characters is level 20. So a challenge rating 30, you're gonna need an army behind you plus a whole bunch of support to even try and take this thing on. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the ultimate beast to take down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and on that note, the Tarrasque is the most terrible creature known to inhabit the prime material plane. The Tarrasque is an eating machine, and while awake, is capable of swallowing creatures roughly the size of huge, which is, for people who don't know the game, about 15 to 16 feet tall and big.
Think like an elephant, that sort of thing,
Yeah, or a mammoth or an elephant. It can just eat it whole, swallow it whole. supposedly there is only one Tarask, which slumbers at the core of the world. When roused, it will quite literally eat the entire world, including plants and animals. That's literally what it's designed to do. Fortunately, it will only be active for a week or two before it will return to its slumber for 5 to 20 months. Although every decade or so, the Tarask will stay active for several months, after which it will sleep for 4 to 16 years, unless disturbed. Why it returns to its slumber is unknown. It is often seemed inevitable that it will some point fulfill its destiny and eat the entire world, destroying it completely. And unfortunately, no one can predict when it will wake. What are you saying, Guy?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I multiple times throughout this video, Jude will notice this in editing, as some other people might. I just said Jesus a lot under my breath because a lot of these Forgotten Realms is one of those things where on the surface, there's wizards and there's gnomes, and it seems like a real cool place to sort of hang out. And then you hear about the hell beasts that are an almost monthly occurrence, if not weekly, if not daily, if not minutely. That just kind of, the people are cool. The fauna and wildlife could do with some work.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'd be crazy to live in this place.
Cool neighborhood culture, bad security.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is why we need adventurers to go around and deal with the shit.
Mm-hmm. That's why you get professionals.
Yeah. So the Tarask has many unusual abilities gifted to it by its creators. Among the most terrifying of these was its ability to ignore any natural resistances its victims has. It can cutting through them with its deadly attacks. It also has the ability to drastically hinder the ability of creatures within 200 feet of it to fly, reducing their speed substantially, while often bringing them down to a maximum altitude of 20 feet, which puts them in the beast's reach. So anything near it, you think, I can just fly away. It has a magical ability to stop you from flying.
I mean, it's very good at eating.
Very good at eating. Most dangerously, of course, is the Tarask's insatiable appetite, of course, because nothing will ever stop it being hungry. The Tarask has the ability to instill creatures nearby with terrible fear, rendering them incapable of movement. Of course, you should be terrified of a 50-foot tall giant creature that can eat anything.
I mean, possibly, yes.
It has a magical ability to instill fear in you, so you're just frozen on the spot. It is also immune to any ill effects of fire, poison, or disease. It is generally immensely difficult to injure. The Tarask is irreversibly tied to the plane. It's the material plane itself. As a result, the most one could hope to do is put the creature to sleep at the core and hold it up for a longer while. While some ancient tests seem to indicate that there might be a way to finally and ultimately deal with the creature, if one could somehow decipher it and lure it into another plane and seal it off. But
so there's one way to deal with it, and it's to put it somewhere else.
Exactly.
Why is this reminding me of like the Hulk? When you told us about Darwin's power, where he just teleported him to the other side of the world.
Yeah. The only way to deal with it.
It's just not divided.
But yeah,
Be
so
somewhere else.
ultimately the Tarask cannot be permanently killed. Even if it is killed, even if you manage to kill it, a few days after you kill it, it will come back to life and repeat its sleeping cycle. It'll magically just come back to life. Even if you dissect the Tarask, it will grow its body parts back and come back to life. Grow its body back and come back to life. So it has magic instilled in it that it cannot die.
Mm-hmm.
Although the Tarask is insatiably a force of pure destruction, it is not truly evil or even chaotic by nature. lacking the consciousness to be even necessary for it to take a moral stance. Basically, in the terms of the game, it is true neutral. Basically, it doesn't have the mental capacity to have. It's not evil. It's
just kind of hungry.
Exactly. It's just in its nature to eat. It's like if a bear. I wouldn't see a bear as evil, but if it eats someone, it's hungry. You know what I mean? It's just in its nature to eat anything it sees.
Zero brain cells.
Yeah. So the people who created it might have not been the nicest people, though.
Was it? Yeah, it's been placed at the center of our planet. Jeez, it's.
Though saying that, the history of the Tarrasque is very controversial. Most people were wholly unaware of the Tarrasque's existence, and those who do come aware of it are unsure of its origins, which they surmise to be anything from its actual creation being a weapon of an ancient evil kobold of wizards to it being created by the gods themselves. Most dismiss these theories of it being created, however, as unproven musings. Most important was the Tarrasque was rarely left evidence or witnesses because it is so dangerous. So you can't really get any clues because it doesn't leave any clues. It just destroys an entire city, not leaving any survivors, and then burrows away. Some sages argue that the Tarrasque was created by the primordials as a weapon of destruction, which its purpose was undoing the stability instilled in the world by the gods, so that the primordials could remake it. Fortunately, the primordials only created one Tarrasque for this take. So that's an interesting thing. So, like, in the world, there are multiple different pantheons of gods and creatures that are basically god level. But the primordials were basically giant elemental, like they're basically elemental gods, but they don't have really powers over the mortal plane. So basically they wanted to overtake the gods that do control the mortal plane with their creatures.
Okay.
Yeah. Jude, do you have any take on that? You know more. You know much more about the gods and how they work.
Well, one of the key things as well is that the entire D&D multiverse, the Forgotten Realms, has multiple different pantheons which it draws on. I'll be completely honest, the direct, because it's also a thing that in different editions throughout the years there's been slight changes in terms of certain god pantheons have been focused more on in different settings, if that makes sense. So I'll be completely honest, I don't know actually loads and loads about the most correct pantheon for 5th edition, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I've looked in the DM's guide. It has a variety of them, but it draws on like its own pantheon plus Greek plus basically any other one that you want.
Yeah.
Provided it's not like the one. Provided it's not the one god ideology, then you can basically pull whatever you want in.
It kind of leads back to the fact that every world is different, and every D&D creator will basically create a different pantheon of gods.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's basically it. Legend has it that one could yield a vast number of gems from a Tarrasque under carapace by treating it with acid and heating it in a furnace. No one really knows if this is true or not, but it's theorized that you could do it. But it's kind of like one of those stories. No one's like, it's kind of like that. If you pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, like you can't actually do it. So, but if you did it, if you killed a Tarrasque, you get all these gems, right? That kind of thing. Other legends speak of dwarven blacksmiths who were able to forge metal from the Tarrasque underbelly by mixing it with adamantite and the creature's blood itself. For those who don't know, adamantite's not real, right? It's fictional.
Yes.
Yeah, adamantite's a very, very strong fictional metal. magical kind of thing. In the
It's like adamantium.
Yeah.
yeah, from the Marvel universe. Adamantite in the D&D sense is basically if armor. It doesn't really do much.
Isn't it vibranium in the MCU setting, Matt?
MCU has vibranium. Yeah, it's the Marvel comics that have adamantine. Adamantine. Yeah, there's so many.
Adamantium versus adamantium. Yeah, there's a
many
wild
metals
amount.
in the Marvel comics. Sorry, I meant the Marvel
People
comics.
like saying that there's better metals than we've got here on Earth because iron and diamond just don't cut it
steel.
sometimes.
It's basically steel, but better. In D&D,
No appreciation for the didn't cut it joke?
I mean, I was just going to move on from it, but...
okay.
I at least wanted a groan.
Look,
Adamantite.
we've just kind of steeled ourselves against your humor at this point.
Oh god. It's about adamantine. We move on.
I mean, Jude can iron this all out in editing.
Yeah.
God. We just gotta steal our faces and keep going.
It's a gold star for this episode.
Let's stop. In D&D, what I was saying, in D&D, adamantite, basically... If you
What, are the pun coppers going to come and get us?
Shut up. If you create armor out of adamantite, you basically can't be critted against. So that's what the benefit of adamantite. I think that's right. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jude. The Tarask can also not... sorry, I've already said this. Yeah, so that actually finishes off the Legends of the Tarask is kind of its thing behind it. So... They theorize that if you kill a Tarask, you could create the most powerful spells, create the most powerful armor, be the wealthiest person in the world. But that's because you can basically, the hardest thing to do is to kill a Tarask. So only in the world, the most powerful people have ever done it. Mm-hmm. So it's basically never
levels done. In the player's handbook, there's levels. So as you level up your character, there's sort of like a suggested sort of this is about what you'd think. Where it's like level 5 is heroes of the local area. Level 10 heroes of the continent. Level 15 is heroes of the world, and level 20 is like heroes of the multiverse, like your champions.
Yeah,
it's sort of loose.
You've met gods, and you do favors for gods all the time, and you've probably even killed one or two.
It can be looser than that, but yeah, it's sort of an easier way to think about it as, yeah. So if you're doing that sort of stuff, level 20, you are essentially a demigod.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, there's no essentially. You are a demigod at that point.
So that pretty much sums up. Those are monsters. We've had cute, cuddly owlbears who low-level adventurers slay on their first quest. 2 giant beasts that could destroy the world, and the toughest of adventurers would struggle to basically contain it. But my question to finish off this episode is, what are your favorite monsters, guys? We'll go Guy first. What is your favorite monster?
I mean, I'm just thinking about the ones that we've had encounters with. I personally enjoy a lot of sea monsters. Things like there's giant squids and that sort of stuff in the D&D universe. I know we're avoiding personal stories, but we once had a party who had such low, perception checks to notice things going on a ship that we lost most of the crew of the ship. And the one exclamation that occurred after that was, we bought way too many rations on this trip.
Because we had the reason we had that is because we had like an hour or 2 long discussion of how many rations we should buy. And then,
of course, half of our crew died, so we ended up with like twice the amount of rations we were supposed to.
Exactly.
So, yes, I like a lot of ocean creatures. The sea battles are a very pirate sort of theme thing, and I very much enjoy an amount of that.
No, I agree. Those are really cool encounters because it's not just on land. You got to really think about how you're going to do this and how you're going to encounter.
Yeah,
because you're in an environment.
Yeah, for sure. And it also, they're not necessarily the coolest things, but thematically, just pirates, man. I've always been a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of dude.
Yeah. Also, fucking giant squids are monsters of our world as well. Fuck that.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, my God. Jude?
That deep blue ocean, maybe there are down there.
They are. What do you mean? Maybe. Definitely.
No, but like super monsters.
Yeah, man.
Anyone see the movie The Meg?
I
hate it.
I saw the trailer, and that was enough, I think.
It is literally, the trailer is enough. You don't have to watch it.
You basically get the gist.
You know it. You know the whole movie.
Oh, God.
Jude? Seem to be a fan of vampires.
As our most powerful DM, come on, what is your favorite monster? What are we going to fight next? Give us a clue.
Nah. Fuck, I don't know what my favorite. There's
when you put on the spot, it's difficult. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Random pick.
Pick one of your thing that just comes to mind when you think of a really
Top of the mind.
I do. Yeah. I do quite like astral dreadnoughts. They're a very wild creature. They're kind of like these giant creatures that inhabit the astral plane. And their whole thing is like, because you've got obviously one of those things that is very much a thing in the D&D universe, and kind of, like in astral projection sort of stuff, where people like separate their spirit from their body, kind of classic like fantasy trope thing. And the whole thing of the astral dreadnoughts is they live in the astral plane, and they if they catch someone's spirit separated from their body, they'll like snip the cord that connects the two, and then the person's soul's like stuck in the astral plane.
I did hear they're like the demons of like the psychic world. I think I've seen photos of them. They're
sort of.
It's like horrible because if you go into the astral plane to communicate or do some powers in there because you want to escape they're just demons that live inside there to help to swallow your soul. That's horrifying.
And they're when they swallow something, they don't actually have like internal organs and stuff when they swallow. Well, like a digestive system. When they swallow something, it like teleports whatever they swallow into a separate pocket dimension, and then you're stuck in there forever.
Jesus.
Because you can't die because you're just a soul, and it is just like a dream demon. Like it's there to eat you just to... Oh god, it's a spirit dream demon.
Like a lot of the plane bound creatures are very interesting. There's the Mechanus? I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's the plane of order essentially. And there's like clockwork servants that live in there, and they are also super cool. There's a lot of wild creatures.
Those clockwork servants are so fun. They're little, like, they're basically, to describe for people listening, they're like little robots that live in the world, and they just have one. They are all built for a particular thing to do, and they have to do it, and they will do anything to fill their service. And
it's incredible really because
cute.
The excuse for the plane of order being hostile is that, as far as I'm aware, as soon as you go over there, the plane of order is perfectly balanced. Everything that happens there is supposed to happen there. So if you go over there and start fucking around, like even if you just step foot in the dimension, then something's out of order and they have to come fix it, and that's you.
And they hate anything being out of order.
It's so ominous. It's very good. I do enjoy it.
Awesome. So that's out for the episode.
Yes.
Well, thank you for taking us through this lovely little Dungeons and Dragons adventure, Matthew.
No problem. I hope for the people listening who haven't played Dungeons and Dragons that maybe they will be more interested in the world itself. It is a very interesting thing to play, but I hope that I have described it enough that they don't need to. They can get the gist of the episode without it.
There's podcasts that you can listen to. There's Critical Role,
I thought we said we're not supporting other podcasts.
We're allowed to mention some things in case people get interested.
That's true.
And
that's true.
There's also Roll20 online, which is an online tabletop one. There's public games that you can enjoy. There's one-shots, which you just play for one session, so not even a big commitment if you do want to have a shot at that.
Yeah, go for it. And Critical Role is a huge podcast if you want to look up something they do it really professionally. If you want to look up something like that, it's been going for ages.
And if you want something a bit more loose and fun, the Adventure Zone's a bit more of a comedic version on it.
Yep. Yeah. And then if you enjoyed this episode and feel like you want to know more about the Forgotten Realms, let us know and we'll strap Matt to a chair and make him research more.
Oh, Dungeons and Dragons episodes will be very easy for us to produce.
Yeah, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons most weeks, so, we have things. And, we could do, I don't know if what people want to hear, but we could either do a small lore on our own world if Jude wanted to do it on our world. You could do a small lore episode.
We'll need to do that in a while because we're still discovering.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. No, we good on that. If you enjoyed this episode, check us out on Facebook and Twitter if you already have to at Living by the Law. All that sort of stuff. If you want to contact us via email at livingbythelaw@gmail.com, or message us on Facebook at our account. And yeah, that's basically it. Also, if you have your time, review really helps. So sharing with a friend or giving us a 5-star on iTunes really does help us grow.
I mean, any star, please God.
Yeah, just reviewing if you enjoyed yourself, just really does help me. Help us.
Helps
you.
Matt sleep at night.
Helps Matthew specifically.
It does help me sleep at night. Sure.
It's what fuels him, you know. Every time, every like on Facebook just gives Matt another minute of life, you know.
You're not wrong.
It's incredible.
You're not wrong.
It's incredible. Just we sometimes gather around and watch the camera as people like it glows with an inner joy that we never see before.
It gives me power.
Wait, we probably shouldn't tell people that. They might stop liking it altogether.
No, I think they'd keep liking it. Power Matthew up.
Power me up. Give
God.
me the juice. I am tired. Give me the juice.
Okay. Sure.
We should get going.
Yes, we should.
Indeed.
Okay.
Hope you enjoyed
Goodbye.
listening. Bye.
Goodbye.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Can we stop?
We have the worst and longest outro of all time.
Bye.
Bye. We need to figure something out that we can say to just be like, and it can't be just
Stop.
bye, because that's a cut.
Shut up. Go to sleep. Bye. Go to sleep. Go to bed. Shh. Thank you for listening to Living by the Law. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes and tell your friends. The link is in the description, and thank you in advance. Also, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Living by the Law to keep updated on all the latest about our podcast. We have been, and always will be, living by the law. Thank you for your company, and good night.